and welcome to the Love Talk Show. Today on the show, we're up for some fun in the snow on our trip for two. The latest in celebrity news in our 1-minute bulletin and 60-second celebrity couples. We also have an expert guest in the studio explaining to us the ins and outs of today's topic. That's right, we had to call in an expert to help us answer the somewhat popular question of, should I get a prenup? Also joining us in the studio, we have a guest who knows from first-hand experience what it's like to ask her fiancé that question. Let's see what we will learn on today's Love Talk Show.
Hello everyone and welcome to Love Talk with me, Helena, and my lovely husband,
James.
That's right.
Today we're talking about a topic that many wouldn't dare to talk about in a relationship.
Yeah, indeed, especially when you are in that honeymoon stage, when all that matters is being together and you don't really get to think about the after.
That's true. The engagement is looming or is already on its way. So why ruin things? Why make things more difficult with things that are practically important, but you can sidestep?
Indeed, well, which only means the big decisions are swept under the carpet a little bit.
That's right. But before we reveal any more, let's see today's first question on Dear Love Talk. Welcome to the part of the program that answers all your questions on relationships. You can get in touch with us, send us your questions via our email address, questions@lovetalkshow.tv, or via our Facebook page.
Exactly. It couldn't be easier for you to get in touch now. First question is for you, right?
The first question comes from Malcolm Sarenson, and he says, "Hi James, I'm a 22-year-old young man who recently started getting to know someone online from another country. Things are going well, but I'm a little weary of online relationships. I want to do things right. What's your advice?" You know, the thing about relationships that start online and live the first few months online is that people can say, look, this can work. But the fact that you say something can work, it doesn't mean that it will work. You know that for everything there's a rule. And usually the rule is that online relationships tend not to work because it's very easily for people to hide who they really are online. And of course, imagine if it's already really difficult for you to get to know someone personally and seeing the person day to day, if even they can hide who they truly are, imagine if you have to do that online. So we're not saying that it can't work or it's not gonna work, but you said you're weary of online relationships, and so you should be. It's not the most safest of processes to start a relationship.
I agree with my husband 100%. And you are very young. I mean, look around you. I am sure that there is someone for you around you. So I know it can be quite trendy. You know, people hear about online dating and all these things, and chat rooms and all that. Let's try, let's see. And it's like you say, it's very tricky. You can easily be deceived because if I am somewhere else in another country, you don't even know where, it's very easy for me to put up a front and be someone that I'm not.
It's like you said, you were saying that, at work, there are people that you know there, so why not look there? But the temptation of looking for someone online is that at work you have access to maybe 10, 20, 50 people. Online you have access to millions of people, right? But the thing is, although you have access to a lot more people, it also means that you can find it a lot more difficult to get to know who that person really is.
Yes.
You can find it more difficult to see the person's true intentions. I mean, it's not uncommon to find cases of people who started this relationship. It went on for months, for years. Then they decided to meet in a particular country, whether she went to meet him in his country of origin or vice versa. And when they got there, they saw that the person was so different to what they initially thought. So I'm not telling you to call this off or that it's not going to work. What I am saying is that you do need to be careful.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, and actually this is interesting. I was reading today that you are 40% more likely to make a relationship work if it starts with someone from work or someone that you know. So think about that.
And you know, just so that we can finish on this question, it's been proven as well, since we are talking about statistics, that people nowadays are more likely to communicate with someone online or via text or email than to actually communicate face to face. And this is a problem because people are forgetting to you know what the principles are of communication when you see someone. So maybe that's why he went for an online kind of relationship, because I don't know, maybe he's shy, I don't know, but maybe it is a high risk relationship.
Maybe it was an easy option, but it may not be always the right option. So let's go straight to the point. Today we're talking about whether you should get a prenup or not if you're getting married. Now, statistics say that around 42% of marriages are expected to end in divorce. And that should at least make you think a little bit that this could be something to be considered.
Indeed. Well, it's probably unlikely that any of those people would have thought of getting a prenup, because it's that whole situation of being very much in love and the honeymoon and everything. But
and they probably thought about it, but they never got around to doing it. And usually people think, look, if I'm getting married, then I think or even bring a prenup up, then it's like I'm expecting to get divorced. And nobody gets married expecting to get divorced. Otherwise, you don't get married. So everyone who gets married wants to stay married. And usually the preconception is that if you get a prenup, this is just for the rich and famous, and it's a sign that you don't trust your partner, and that doesn't have to be the case.
Well, we took these questions and other questions on this topic to the streets of London. Let's see what people say about this.
Would you consider getting a prenup if you're about to commit to someone for life?
I think I definitely would, yeah. If I'm going to commit to someone, that's something that I'd definitely think about.
I don't think so. It just wouldn't feel right for me anyway.
I mean, I don't think I'll be in a financial situation where I have to, so I'd like to think that I wouldn't.
Does it show a lack of love if you consider getting one, do you think?
I think you'd have to talk it through with your other half. You know, people have different opinions. It's just general, it's whatever your partner wants and you want.
I don't think it necessarily shows a lack of love. It's just a different way of thinking that you would expect to be a different way of thinking and feeling at a point in your life where presumably it's all about love. But on the other hand, it's quite sensible as well. So it's a tricky one.
I think it shows a lack of trust. Whether the two are the same thing or not, I guess each case has to be judged on its own.
What do you think are the dangers in getting one or not getting one in a relationship?
If you're wealthy and you marry a gold digger, that's a danger. I think it's also a risk to ask for one and show that you don't trust your partner and you don't believe in the fact that your relationship's going to last.
So obviously, if one of the people in the relationship is very wealthy, and for any reason you split up, then you want to make sure that there's a fair divide in the finances, I guess, and you want to make sure any children that you have in the relationship are looked after, and maybe that a prenup would help with that. To be honest, I haven't given it too much thought because I don't think I would do that.
Do you think a prenuptial agreement is just for the rich and famous?
It seems to be that way, but I don't think so. I think anybody can get a prenup if they want, but it just seems to be that the rich and famous are more likely to get one.
Probably. I mean, they tend to make more stupid marriages, I think. I mean, that's what it seems like.
Oh, no. I mean, in my case, it would have it was a question that was asked about me before I got married, but we chose not to, Yeah.
Would you share your entire wealth if you're committed or your significant other?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'll share everything. If you're going to be with someone, you need to trust them, you need to share them, and that's what a relationship's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be careful, I guess. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'd have a prenup, but you'd have to look carefully into your finances and, you're setting up your will and all of that stuff. So I think there's ways of protecting your finances or your collective finances without going down that route.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you would want to, I'd like to take my girlfriend out and have a drink with her. I mean, it's not loads of money, but, it's what you got. But if you had more, you'd do more with them, wouldn't you?
You can see that generally people are uneasy to talk about this. Whether
some divided opinions there.
whether they think you should or you shouldn't, people are uneasy to talk about it. And maybe that shows that people don't talk about it enough. And let me just say to you that when we started this program, when we came to do this program here today, we already said we can't make this decision for you, or we can't tell you what to do.
Or say that it is the right thing or not the right thing to do.
You need to see what the right thing is for you. Some professionals would say that having a prenup is protecting your assets. And surely, if you don't start from zero in your financial life, then it probably makes sense to look at protecting what you achieved by yourself up until that point. And of course, this is always something that you can change at a later time.
Yes, absolutely. It's a contract. You can change anytime you want. But when you consider being with someone for life, isn't that showing a lack of trust? I don't think so.
After all, sometimes people who think they know the ones they're getting married to, they can be surprised. Sometimes you get married to someone, you really think you know that person, you think they'll never disappoint you. And we've seen many cases of people who turn around and change and try to take advantage.
I would even dare to say, I don't know what you think about this, that this kind of contract protects people who have poor judgment. Sometimes you are in a vulnerable situation, and then, like that person said on the streets of London, said, you know what, maybe it might be someone who has one eye on you and another eye on what you've got. So I don't know.
And
you
those,
never know.
Those people exist.
Exactly.
Those people are out there. So,
unfortunately,
thinking about this, or at least talking about it, doesn't mean you are anticipating a problem. It just means that you worked hard for what you have, and you will now work hard together with your partner to achieve even greater things and better things. But you want to.
It's like, for example, I hear what you say. You've worked hard, depending on which stage you are at in your life, and then you are fast. It's very soon. It's going to be retirement age, for example, and you need to know that you've got your money there to help you live the rest of your days.
And even if retirement is not yet around the corner, the thing is, if you worked 10 years to buy a house, right, and then you get married, and then after 1 year something goes wrong, you have to share half of that house with the person who left you. It doesn't sound right. But anyway, like we said, we are here today to make you think about this, and you make your own decision. We're going to go to the 1 minute bulletin, see what the 1 minute bulletin has for us. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome to this week's 1 Minute News. A recent survey shows that if you are in an unhappy relationship, you are 35% more likely to get ill.
Marriage definitely leaves you better off, not only health-wise, but also wealth-wise. You get to share all your expenses, which is less stress for you, and also you get to go home to your best friend every single day.
And we could say that if you look after your marriage, it's like looking after your health. Both are linked together. And if you invest in your marriage as much as you invest in your health, you stand a better chance at being happy at both. Instead of calling off your marriage because you are sick or things are not going well, work at it and things will surely get better. Until next time, bye-bye.
Well, very interesting statistics right there.
I honestly didn't know that you could get sick if your relationship is not well. You're more likely to get sick. I didn't know that.
It makes so much sense.
But it does make sense.
Yeah.
Now, since we speak about intelligent love here on Love Talk, what could be more apart from emotions than considering or thinking a prenup. I mean, that is, even if you consider it, it is somewhat an intelligent decision. Whether you get it or not is a different matter, but even considering it is, you are using your intelligence, and that's what we want to do with this program. We don't want to give you all the answers. We want to tell you that maybe this is something that you should at least think about.
Consider, yeah. Well, I agree with my husband. We cannot tell you what to do or what you should do, but definitely it's something you should think about.
Yeah, and this is a very personal decision.
Yeah.
No one can persuade you to either think about this or do this or not. And if you don't know your future husband or wife for very long, you shouldn't feel bad if you want to at least talk about this and say, listen, everything we achieve from the point of marriage onwards, it'll be ours. And, in a few years' time, we'll talk more about this. And again, you don't have to talk about this. We are putting things out in the open. For example, when Elena and I, we got married, we had nothing. Till today, we don't have
I was
really
19, you were
anything. I was
21.
21, she was 19. If we had a prenup, what would we do a prenup on? It wasn't even an issue, right?
Exactly.
But if you're a certain age and you have a house in the Bahamas, right? You have a weekend car that you use just for the weekend, that you polish on Saturday morning to drive on Sunday afternoon. Those people who have a car like this.
Because it's too expensive to run during the week.
Exactly. You worked hard for that. That's something your heart is not in that, but you work really hard for that. So at least you think about whether you want to protect that or not.
Indeed, and you know something, this really protects. I can think of a certain group of people where they know there's something that doesn't sound quite right, but they still decide to go ahead and get married. When you're not absolutely sure.
Yeah.
So prenup, definitely. I mean, think about it. I'm not telling you to do it or not, but it is something definitely worth thinking about. Yes.
And of course, in this day and age, you have men and women who are equally suited to do well financially. Men and women nowadays, they have equal assets, they have equal chances of buying things and prospering. So it's normal that both genders, they think about, I worked hard for what I have and I want to make sure that this is protected. But of course, after a couple of years that a couple spends together, you have a different level of trust. You trust this person completely. Yeah. Of course, you trust a person when you get married with them. You do trust them, otherwise you wouldn't get married.
Exactly.
If you do get married and you don't trust the person, then you've made a very bad choice in your life. Yeah. But you get married because you trust the person. But of course, I've been married to Elena now for almost 15 years. We trust each other now on a completely different level. So if I would have brought something into this marriage that I had achieved before, that I wouldn't feel 100% comfortable of that being hers as well, right now that would be a completely different ball game because we completely trust each other.
Indeed. Well, there has been a rise in young girls dating older men for money, also known as the gold diggers.
Gold diggers. If I'm not mistaken, I did see someone the other day on the street with some jogging pants, and at the back it said gold digger. I think it's a brand as well. Well, if you have seen this, send us a Facebook message. I have seen the gold digger pants. Have you seen the gold digger pants?
No, I haven't.
You've never seen the gold digger pants? I have. Someone was wearing a pair of pants and at the back said gold digger.
All right then. Well, anyway.
It's not something to be proud of, by the way.
Well, it's estimated that they receive a monthly allowance of 5,000 from their sugar daddies.
5,000 pounds, not 5,000 kisses.
Thanks for mentioning that.
5,000 pounds.
Who often earn an average of 170,000 per year.
170,000 pounds, not kisses as well. Please.
Wow, that's a lot of money right there.
Should this ever develop into a serious relationship, this relationship between sugar daddy and gold digger, there would be serious consequences if the guy doesn't consider a prenup. And by the way,
he has quite a lot to spend, so maybe
we have to think, listen, gold digger usually, they say, is the woman and the guy is the sugar daddy. Is there a sugar mama?
I think so.
Sugar mummy. a sugar mummy and
I think that nowadays
a gold digger man.
it goes both
could
ways.
be.
Now, don't go anywhere, as we will carry on talking about this after the break.
Hello and welcome back. Today we're asking the question, should I get a prenup? Now when we say should I, not me and Elena, we've been married for 15 years, but should you who are about to get married, you who are thinking of getting married, is that something you should be thinking about?
Well, you decide. Now, it's such a taboo, you know, this topic, that the phrase itself sounds like something from a song. Which song?
I think there's a song that says something about gold digger. Look, today we've already spoken about gold digger pants and gold digger song. So it's a serious topic. Now, there are serious consequences if this is not taken seriously. I know we were laughing here, but there's a lot of people who have...
We need to make this a bit lighter.
Yeah, because it's a heavy topic. There are people that have struggled because they married someone they completely trusted. They had achieved considerable things when they did get married. Things went wrong, the person wasn't who they thought they were, and then the person ended up losing a lot of what they had fought really hard to achieve.
Indeed. It's very common for us to hear of celebrities who have to give up of large amounts of their personal wealth to their exes in divorce settlements.
Exactly.
So that's a good example right there.
In certain cases, it has even led to that person's demise. They lose everything. We hear of celebrities, footballers who become bankrupt because of a bad marriage. So we're not here today to scare you away from marriage. Marriage is a wonderful thing. But since we're talking about an intelligent kind of love, then of course you need to make intelligent decisions. That's an important point.
Indeed. Well, to discuss this further, let's see who is joining us today on the show.
Welcome back. So today, to help us talk about should you get a prenup or not, we're not really specialists in this, so we brought a specialist in. We have a solicitor in, Andrew Kidd. It's a pleasure to have you here on the program.
Pleasure to be here.
Come in.
Now, this is not the most romantic thing to talk about, right?
But we've got to talk about it.
Yeah, especially if you're about to get married. But let's talk about, I want to use my example. I got married when I was 21, Elena was 19. At that time, we didn't have virtually anything, so it didn't make sense for us to get a prenup. Now, when you are getting married and you have achieved some things in life, you feel that somehow you want to protect what you have. Not that you don't trust the person. Do people find it difficult to talk about this, to bring this up in relationships?
Well, they can do, but when they go and see a specialist lawyer, they can soon break down those barriers, and they realise it's not about trust, it's about clarity and certainty for both parties. Right. And prenups are really designed to promote harmony rather than sow seeds of discord.
But
Right.
Do both of them usually go to you, or do you get one going to you and then asking all the questions?
Well, the best protection and for the prenup to stand the best chance of the court having regard to its terms is for both parties to be separately represented. Okay. So whilst initially the couple may come and see us, we would recommend that one party goes and takes independent advice.
Because I was watching a few videos and people asking some questions, and one of the main questions is, when is the right time to actually talk about it?
Yeah.
Well, there's an easy answer to that, and it's the sooner the better. Because what the court doesn't like is a prenup that's been signed very close to the wedding, so or the civil partnership. So the sooner the better. That would have the prenup have the greatest chance of being upheld.
But for people at home, if you don't mind me, because we all know what it is, but some people at home might not know what it is.
Sure.
Do you mind just explaining what...
So I call them nuptial agreements, and that takes in prenups, which were done before the wedding, and postnups, which are done after the wedding or civil partnership. So a nuptial agreement is simply a document which records what the parties want to do should they separate or divorce.
Right.
Okay.
So when you say
Quite clear.
the earlier the better, so the guy goes down on one knee with a ring and then say, by the way, let's...
There's a fine line
good
between
one.
tact and diplomacy. Yeah, I wouldn't possibly suggest that it'd be done at that stage. But the sooner the better. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I think one of the most important things, because for example, in this program we always talk about love intelligently, and usually when you talk about love, people don't talk about intelligent decisions, they talk about emotional decisions. But it's important, like you said, it's to protect both parties. It's to give you the peace of mind that, you know, if you've achieved something, you're protecting that, and nothing stops you from a few years down the line when you feel your relationship has really gotten to another level, that you can always change that, right?
That's absolutely right. It's like a contract, like any other agreement. So we always recommend that couples review their prenup periodically. And if after 5-10 years they decide it's no longer needed, then fine, it could be revoked.
Right.
Now, do things usually or often go wrong? Like, for example, let's say that you have a client coming to you saying, I've been married, I know about the whole thing of prenuptial agreements and stuff, but I never actually got to do one. This is happening. What do you usually do when
it's never
you forgot to do?
Sure, it's never too late to seek legal advice. So you could enter into a post-nuptial agreement at any stage during the marriage, or if things are really going bad, you could enter into a separation agreement. It's never too late to take appropriate advice and put something in place that records what the parties understand about the matrimonial assets and how they want to deal with things if things are really going wrong. Because if they don't do that, then ultimately it's down to the court's discretion. And we all know that can be very expensive,
And it's
uncertain.
so it's a risk then to
and
leave
risky.
it for...
Indeed, yes.
Because I understand by this agreement that both need to agree.
Yes,
So
that's essential.
What if he doesn't want to agree? That's what I mean.
Well,
Or he or she, you see what I mean? After.
Well, in order for a nuptial agreement to be binding, both parties have to buy into the agreement. So that's a very good point.
Right, so what happens if they don't?
Well, then the nuptial agreement won't. It won't.
See, for example, you just don't have the. You just don't have the.
You just
rights
don't have the
thing.
agreement. It's a prenuptial agreement.
Okay. Just in case.
So if someone is deciding to take that step, I'm going to get married, or we're going to enter into a civil partnership, like you said, what is the first step? Is it to look for a family lawyer and say we want to do this? Is there like a period of time that it takes to draw this up? And
Well, it's difficult to put a time scale on it. There's a case in 2010 which you may have heard of called Rationality, which fundamentally changed the landscape in this area, because it said it was a Supreme Court case, and it said the courts will look at prenups and they will carry weight. And since that case, there was a timescale of 28 days before a marriage or civil partnership where the court wouldn't have regard to a nuptial agreement.
Right. Okay.
So
And usually, maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. If I'm going to get married and I decide we're going to get a prenuptial agreement, from the moment we make the decision till we have that ready with solicitors, how long does that period usually last for?
Until the papers are ready.
Until everything's ready.
Well, it very much depends on the circumstances of the case. I mean, we've had cases where they've had to be dealt with very promptly because the couple are getting married and they want it to be a prenuptial agreement. The thing to think of is, once you decide it's appropriate to have a nuptial agreement because there's a financially weaker party and a financially stronger party, then go and seek legal advice as soon as possible.
Okay. We have to go to a short break, but we're going to come back with a few questions that we recently hear from people who come to us with advice. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So we've been talking about the difficult subject of prenuptial agreements or postnuptial agreements. It's something that usually, talking about it can start arguments. It doesn't have to, but it can, because some people probably misunderstand what this is about. And that's probably the next question I want to put to Andrew Kidd, the solicitor who's here in the studio with us today. So Andrew, what are the biggest misconceptions people have about nuptial agreements?
The biggest misconception is that they are somehow indicative of mistrust between the parties. The first thing I always say is they're not. They're designed to promote marital harmony and to dispel any misunderstanding and really promote harmony between the couple.
Right. So when someone comes to you for the first time and they have, what are the most common questions people have when they come to talk about prenuptial?
Well, they want to know the cost. Obviously, that's one of the first questions. How long it will take, and what is the process basically? Right. So the process normally is we discuss it with the parties, and we ensure that one party is independently represented.
Okay, so there has to be 2 solicitors involved.
Yes, generally.
See, I've done my homework.
Very well. So we have people watching us right now who think that this may be, the way for them to go with their relationship. What would your advice be? So what would be the first step?
The first step is to take legal advice.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to find an appropriately qualified solicitor to go and speak to, and they will guide you through the process.
Okay.
It's quite simple, as you can see. I mean, I think what people need to do is to see this contract as a normal thing, just to safeguard them and
actually to understand that, as you were saying, the law can be your friend. Is there to protect you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Should anything happen.
I think some people are usually afraid to go to a lawyer and talk about this. As you said, that there's this wrong idea that it means your relationship is on the rocks, and it's not. It's completely the opposite. Yeah, so thank you very much for being on the program.
Pleasure.
Andrew. And we're going to talk to someone who is about to get married, and she has a lot to talk about this because she had to make a decision on this topic. Whether she chose to take a prenup or not, you're going to hear from her in a few moments. But first, here's what's happening in the world of celebrity news.
Hi guys, sit back and hold tight for another 60-second hotspot update in the land of Tinseltown. So ladies, it seems affirmative. Harry Styles is off the market. Sorry. In 2013, Harry went on several dates with Kendall Jenner, but they called it quits shortly after. They were then spotted skiing together in 2014, but recently the couple have been seen on a yacht in St. Bart's, cuddling, touching and flirting. Sorry, but we're just not buying this friend's answer any longer. Are you, ladies? After Scott Disick was spotted kissing Lena Sandberg in Beverly Hills this month outside the Polo Lounge, all chances of him salvaging his relationship with Kourtney Kardashian seemed lost. Since then, though, Scott said, he's only met Lena a few times and it's nothing serious. He seems undecided if you ask me. See you next week for more Celebrity Love Talk.
Welcome back. So we went from having a lawyer sitting here talking to us about whether you should get a prenup or not, whether it's a good idea or not, to having someone who is actually in a situation to think about this. So we have Carolina sitting with us. Carolina, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
So before you tell us about the whole prenup thing and what your thoughts are on it, tell us a little bit about your relationship. How's the relationship? Where did it start?
Yeah, well, he nearly ran me over.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, he nearly ran me over. And
is that how you met?
Yeah. And then I was really angry, so I kicked his car. And I carried on walking up the road, and then I saw him like in the other side of the road, crossing the road. Okay. And I was like, crap, I'm going to pretend I don't speak English. I started speaking Portuguese. And then from there, we just started speaking. And he really just wanted to talk to me.
Right.
So I think that's a first on Love Talk. In 2 years of recording this program, we never had anyone who met their partner, who got him almost run over. So that's
very interesting.
But we don't advise you to do that. Should you want to meet someone, don't throw yourself in front of a car.
I did not throw my... Do you know what? It was a red light for him and it was a green light for me.
So he was in the wrong.
He was definitely in the wrong.
You've been together for how long?
2 years and a half now.
Okay, so you decided to talk about getting married. You got engaged.
Yeah, we got engaged last year in our 1 year anniversary, and my parents live abroad, so he went. It was actually, he'd done it in a very traditional way, and it was different because he's actually English, so. And we are quite traditional with the whole marriage thing. So he went to Portugal to ask my parents because that's where they live. So he did do it in a very traditional way, and
that's nice.
And he actually proposed to me on the road that he nearly ran me over in.
Okay.
So it was very romantic. It was definitely very romantic, and I feel like the first year it was the second year of our relationship and it was perfect. But I feel like, you know, when you like leave the 2-year threshold, there comes like, you know, the tribulations and everything, and you have to really, that's when like we really need to know, do we really love each other? Is this what we really want? And at one point he felt that that's not what he wanted.
Right.
So it was for me to be patient with it. But then you start asking your question, like, is it going to be like that? 1 minute, yes, I do want this. Next minute, not so much.
And I guess you have to just respect the other person. Imagine if it was you, isn't it? You've got to, there's always one who needs a bit more time to think about it.
The interesting thing is that all these imperfections you start noticing later, they were there before.
Yeah.
But it's just that we were too busy with our emotions and feeling all, you know, lovey-dovey to notice them. So you've noticed them, you decided still to go forward. These imperfections are natural. Yeah. Then he proposed to you.
Yeah.
So the day after he proposed to you, you brought up the prenup subject, or was that a little bit later?
No, that was a little bit later. We wouldn't really want to get into that. We wouldn't want to spoil the engagement, right? You still want to feel it and, like, you know, be happy with it.
Right.
But then obviously we started, you know, when you start wedding planning.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just sneak it in.
That's a good one.
How would you?
You need to wait for the right time.
You don't have a date set yet, right?
No, we don't.
Okay, so you know you're going to get married, you're planning for it, but there's no date. So, because that's something we asked Andrew Kidd, the solicitor who was here with us earlier. How soon do you bring up the topic?
Yeah.
So, how soon after he proposed to you did you bring up the topic of
I feel like probably about after 3 months, when we were officially thinking, what do we want for the wedding? How do we want it to be? And, you know, the whole process towards the wedding. So that was a question that, you know, would have to come up.
Right.
When you're planning your wedding and you're planning to spend your life with somebody, you want to find out, you know, what country you want to get married in, you know, whether or not you would want a prenup. It comes as part of the questions. Yeah.
Is that what you did?
And that was literally what I did. I asked him how he felt about prenups, if that's something that he wanted. And then he was just like, he brushed it off. He was like, I don't really care. If you want it, we can have it. If you don't, then I don't really care.
So from the moment you bring that question up, it already means that you are in a minority, because very few people ask that question, right? So you already put yourself in a very small minority.
Yeah.
And what did you expect when you asked that question? Because he said, look, you know, if you want it, fine. If you don't want it, fine. Were you happy with that answer? Is that what you were looking for?
I was actually happy with that answer, because it wasn't, it made me trust him more. Because if he said yes, he did want one, then it would be like, are you thinking about divorcing me anytime soon? And then if he said he didn't want one and he was adamant and like, you know, I'm not going to have a prenup, it means that you don't love me. And then it would come up to the question, well, if you did love me, then you wouldn't mind signing it.
But you know, there's also the post-nuptial agreement as well.
But the fact that he was in between.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, the fact that he was in between it, it kind of meant that it was like he gave me the power to choose what I want. And that, I respected that a lot.
That's nice.
Did you think, for example, you say that he went to speak to your parents to say that he wanted to marry you and so on. How do you think that your family, I mean, does your family know that you asked him this question? How do they see this?
Yeah, my dad knows. My dad's a very business-minded man. So he understood why I asked those questions. But then again, my dad and my mom are very traditional. And they've been married for like 30 years. So they're the day and age then, they don't really believe in prenups. However, you can contradict that with any marriage is a type of contract, isn't it? So even with the cultures, it's like you get married and then, you know, or the bride's parents will pay for it and the groom's parents will, you know, buy you gifts and things like that. It's still some sort of contract.
It is.
It's just not written in paper.
But for some reason, there's this kind of a taboo thing, you know. Some people don't like to talk about it. They do think that it's a negative thing, so...
Because it's
Today we thought
associated
we'd
so
talk about
closely to divorce, I think.
Yeah.
It should be the last thing in your mind when you're getting married, thinking, what if?
But then again, when you do what you do, like preparing for your wedding, you have to think where you want to live, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, where do we want to live? In Portugal or England?
Yeah.
Or anywhere else? So it's like it has to be decided. So
exactly.
Now I have a few interesting questions for you, but we have to go for a short break. Okay. We're gonna come back because I want to find out why you wanted to ask this question.
Yeah.
So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So we found out some very interesting things about Carolina, who's here with us. We found out that she met her partner by him almost running her over, right?
Yes,
exactly.
We also said, disclaimer, do not jump in front of a car to meet someone. Okay. But what I wanted to ask you, Carolina, because there must be a reason why you thought of this question. Because, for example, if I'm getting married and I don't have anything to my name, I wouldn't really bother about a prenup. So probably there was a thought behind you asking that question. What was it? Were you afraid that something would go wrong, or is it that, just in case you want to protect what you have? What's the thought behind it?
Or were you following a checklist that you can find online about preparations for weddings? Oh, okay, prenups. I don't know what that is, but hey, would you like to have one? How was it? Tell us.
Do you know what? I'm not so feminine in that aspect. I'm very career driven. Okay. I think it's that, and I'm very rational. Not so emotional. I'm more rational, and I'm a lot like my dad.
Which makes you a career person.
Exactly.
But that's a good thing. We always say in this program that this is a great thing.
Indeed.
And with my dad, he's always taught me, in any business I do, make sure you do a contract. Make sure you read a contract. And I was brought up like that, I was brought up with contracts, and, my dad's a football agent, so it's contracts upon contracts and clauses, and I'm used to that. So and it was as well as I'm very ambitious, so is he, and, you just wanted to see, I personally wanted to see where his mind was at. I didn't ask it in a sense that I wanted to have it. I just wanted to know where his mind frame was at.
Test him.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I needed to know exactly what I was getting myself into.
Right.
Because if he's as rational as I am, then,
And the thing is, we were talking about this program the other day, Elena and I, and as I was talking, I actually changed my view on this as I was talking about it, because I think when you say, look, should you get a prenup or not, naturally you think, well, if two people love each other, then you trust each other, and that shouldn't matter. You shouldn't get a prenup because you trust each other. But then the thing is, having worked with couples for so many years, we have seen those horror stories where you think you really know someone, then you get married, and then a year later something goes wrong.
And he exchanges you for a 20-year-old, and you're
But I feel like it's like what you said. The signs are always in the beginning. In the relationship. So you're not going to marry someone that you...
But not everyone wants to see the signs.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you don't want to see, that's where my rationality comes in with seeing that. So to me, I knew exactly that it was going to come to a point where he was going to question whether or not he wanted to get married. And the reason I knew that was because his mother isn't married. His mother was never married. His sisters are never married. His friends are not married. So obviously he's going to question himself as well. So I think the signs will come in the beginning.
And so one of the problems that people don't want to talk about this or even consider getting a prenup is because they think if I bring this up, it takes away the magic of marriage or of the relationship. But something very important is what you were saying. For example, you were talking about being rational.
Yeah.
And people sometimes forget that in a relationship, you have to be rational. You don't solve a problem by being emotional. You solve a problem by being rational. So is having asked the question and getting the answer that you wanted to get, is that something you would advise other people to consider? Should there be something you have to protect because you've achieved something in life?
Definitely. I feel like once you trust and respect each other and you have that friendship, there is no reason why you can't have that conversation with somebody.
Or talk about anything.
Actually. Yeah, you're supposed to be like, it's not just a relationship, it's like a friendship. And with your friends, we talk about anything without hesitation. Is that not correct? So
Absolutely.
it should be like that with your partner for life.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
So I think there's one final thing we should say here before we finish on this topic. Perhaps the way to ask the question is not, do you want to get a prenup? Is, what do you think about it?
That's
right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a more open way and a less direct way of asking the question. Is that more or less what you did? What do you think?
It's more like, what do you think about it? Like, is it something that you want? Is it something that you don't want? It's just a topical conversation.
And maybe put the ball in the person's court, like you said. Is that something you want? So you're asking the question, but you're not saying, I want one.
There you go. But it's not like slapping a contract and being like, sign this. And then that would be like, it's insulting.
Yeah.
It's almost insulting. It's the way you deliver it as well.
Absolutely. So
very important tips right here.
When we started this program today, we said we wouldn't tell you in this program whether you should do it or not. This is always your decision. What we wanted to do when we started this program is to say, listen, there's all these options here, and you make up your mind. But surely, it is important to protect what you've worked really hard for.
I agree. And also, many people, I'm sure, didn't know what it was. So I think that after today's program, you are clear on what it means, what it does to you, and how it protects you. So
absolutely.
The ball is in your court.
Before we finish today's program, we had last week our couple, Eric and Priscilla, our resident date testers. So they test dates. Last week they went to Ripley's.
You changed their names.
Let's give it a different name every week. This week they went to the Snow Center in St. Albans, and they went skiing for the first time.
Excellent way of breaking the ice.
Absolutely.
If you're on a first
Pardon
date.
the pun, breaking the ice, skiing. Did you think of that one, or you just came up with it?
Just came up with that. I hear you say that so many times.
Let's see how it went.
Center.
And as you see, we are getting ready for that.
Yes.
And I have here with me Pete, who's going to be our instructor today. He is going to be teaching us how to ski. And Pete, just would you like to tell us just a little bit about this place and what you're going to be doing today?
Okay, yeah, certainly. Well, first of all, welcome Priscilla.
Thank you.
And welcome Eric.
Yeah.
We are at the Snow Centre in Hemel Hempstead, so this is the closest real snow to London. The Snow Centre has now been operating for 7 years, and before we became an indoor snow centre, we was an outdoor dry ski slope. So these have existed in the UK for 30 years. So this site here in Hemel Hempstead has been a skiing site for 37 years plus.
Wow. Is it? All right. So let's see what is waiting for us today. Yes. We're going to put our boots on, and I would you like to see with us?
Let's ski.
Okay, so now we've got your equipment, you've got your ski boots. The clips go on the outside. We have to make sure that we undo every clip, otherwise we can't get the boot on. So this is obviously a left boot. We then take the tongue forward, you slide your foot in, and you put your whole body weight down.
See if I can stand. Whoop.
All right, we are ready then?
You're ready, okay, so the way you carry the skis, I'll show you that quickly. Best to hold the skis around about here.
All right.
And then keep them down, otherwise you'd knock people over.
All right, and as you can see, we are ready on the snow, and the temperature, as I heard from Pete, it's -2, right, Pete?
Yeah, very cold today,
And I just would like to get some more information from you about skiing. How long have you been skiing for?
Well, I've been skiing since I was 12 years old. I'm now 45, so most of my life I've been skiing, yeah.
All right, and for someone like me who doesn't know anything about skiing, how long does it take to start skiing?
Okay, to learn the basics, to learn to control your skis and maybe use a lift, is actually 3 to 4 hours of tuition, whether it be in a group or whether it be in a private lesson with an instructor. Normally 3-4 hours and you can ski.
All right. Do you think I can learn that then?
Absolutely, yeah, we get you started today.
All right, so let's go.
First thing thing we need to do is just learn what it feels like to wear some skis. So simply, we have our feet parallel, about hip width apart, slide one forward and slide one backwards. So we're this kind of thing. How's that feel?
Good.
Okay?
Yeah, good.
Stand in the middle of the skis, bend down a little bit.
Yeah.
See if you can spring up, do a little jump for me. Ready? Go on, up we go.
Move.
And again. Lift one ski up for me and just hold it up for a bit.
Oh, whoa, this one is harder.
Put it down. Lift the other ski up, hold it up for a bit. Now next thing we're going to do, Priscilla, you're going to follow me.
Yes.
We're going to simply walk in this direction, turn around and walk back. And Eric, you're going to follow us.
All right.
Okay, so you want to get in front.
Yes.
So it's very simple. Okay, just walk back over there, Priscilla, turn around again. Eric, try one in front of the other. We're getting there, buddy.
It doesn't move.
It doesn't work. It will do. It's not bad. Already you're skiing. You see, that's been a few minutes. Okay, I would like you to go forward, turn around, come back, and the first one to tap my hand is the winner of that race.
At the same time?
At the same time. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
It doesn't move. It don't move.
Yes!
When we ski down the slope, the position we adopt is a little bit like a goalkeeper. Being Brazilian, you like your foot, or like a tennis player. So we tend to be nice and low, arms and hands out, round at the back, and then we just ski down.
All right.
Because you've not done it before, I'm going to help you. So I'm going to stand in front of you, I'm going to help you turn around, and then you're going to have your run down. As you go down the hill, take your hands from being in front and just put them down towards your knees. And that's it. If you stay like that, you'll be stable. I'll give you a little push.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Fantastic.
Yay!
Hey, look at that.
Whoa. You have to lift. Yay!
Give me another one. Another one. Good. Okay, just come in here for me. Get your hands nice and low.
Okay.
That's it. Keep it together. Yeah. That's all. Well. Well done. Okay, guys.
All right, Pete. Just would you like to know how deep is the snow?
The snow here is about ½ a metre deep.
Okay.
And what happens is it's actually real snow made artificially. And what I mean by that is no chemical or anything. It's just water that's pushed into a cold environment. It crystallises and becomes snow. As it gets used, we push the old snow out and we make the new snow. So at this time of year, it snows in Hemel Hempstead almost every evening. So we snow at night and in the morning we've got perfect peace. Okay guys, so you've progressed really well from the little baby slope there. You can both walk up and down, you can both ski down and stay balanced. Nobody's fallen yet, which is a really good sign. So actually we're going to start to use this slope over here. We're not going to go too high, but rather than walk up and down, which is quite tiring, we're going to use one of our, what we call travelators, like a moving carpet.
Okay.
So you stand on the carpet, you wait for the light to go green, and it will take you up. And what happened is I'll be there to help you off.
Okay.
And then we're going to repeat some of the stuff over here, but without the walking up and down. We have to join in with another group now, but that's not a problem, so we're joining the line here. And we're probably going to get off around about where that the snow centre sign is, and I'll be standing there to help you off.
All right.
And then we'll have a few little runs down, practicing like these guys are here, who are probably about an hour ahead of where you are in terms of their learning journey. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Let's go.
Top leg. Go around like that. Big V-show, that's the stretch, yeah? Little steps. Keeping it in a V-shape. And then when I start to slide forward, hands and knees, push the skis out. Okay, now put your hands on your knees. Push both skis out to the back, push them out more. That's it. And on the way down, see if you can hold that shape. Ready? Push them out, push them out. That's it. Yeah, look at that.
Very good. I'm really enjoying it. Whoops. Don't.
Gotta be quick, gotta be quick.
Oh. Again.
One and a half. Well done. One.
Oh, and a turn, and a turn, and backwards. I think he won. man.
It's freestyling.
Thank you.
Yes, and he fell. I knew he was gonna fall.
But I did
now,
very well anyway.
now it's back to the studio.
Well, we're only going to get the result of who did better next week, but I think
I am so confident that the women women, when I mean women, it's me and her, that we're going to win this competition this
had
year.
it been me and you would have won because you grew up skiing. I didn't, so.
Yeah, so please, Priscilla.
But that looks like a lot of fun. We invite everyone
Well
to
done,
try that.
she's very brave.
So first, to finish today's program, remember that a relationship is individual, it's personal. And what one person does, it doesn't mean that the other person has to copy. However, like in anything in life, there are things that it's proven that it does work, and some things it doesn't work. So you need to think if this is something that could work for you. And if you think that it could, and if you think that it can help you protect what you've worked so hard for, then don't be afraid to bring up the question. Asking a question is not offensive. So go ahead, ask the question perhaps in an open way, in a less offensive way, but perhaps it's a topic that needs to be talked about.
Indeed, and if you still have any questions on today's topic, you can get in touch with us via our email address, questions@lovetalkshow.tv.
Absolutely. I want to thank Carolina for being here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And all the best.
Thank you.
With your wedding.
Thank you.
Until next week, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's all for today's Love Talk Show. Be sure to tune in next week to learn how to love intelligently.